The city of Lagos, Nigeria's commercial hub, woke up to chaos and sadness on the first day of November, following the collapse of a 21-story building on Gerrard Road in the Ikoyi area of the state. The death toll continues to rise as more bodies are recovered, and the number of survivors have now increased to 15 as at the time of this broadcast. That sad incident is our focus on this episode of Special Report. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.
The real estate industry in Nigeria is one of the major sectors attracting both local and foreign investors. From the commercial city of Lagos to the nation's seat of power in Abuja and other parts of the country, several individuals and companies engage in real estate investment. The real sector is arguably one of the leading areas of investment that has contributed to the GDP. However, this sector is bedeviled with lots of crises, including fraudulent and sharp practices, breach of contract by real estate developers, sale of government-acquired lands, amongst others. This is why prospective buyers and investors are advised to always retain the services of good real estate solicitors to navigate such investments. The Land Use Act of 1978 is the principal law enacted to regulate ownership of real estate in Nigeria. By the provisions of the Act, the power to control and administer all land situated within a geographical area of a state is vested in the state governor for the benefit of the citizens. The governor is responsible for granting a right of ownership for individuals and corporate bodies to hold and use the land for a limited term, and such grant is evidenced by the issuance of a certificate of occupancy or governor's consent. By the provisions of the Land Use Act, it becomes unlawful to transfer any interest in land without first obtaining the consent of a governor of the state where the land is located, as provided under Section 22 of the Land Use Act. In the last 2 decades, the real estate business has become a big deal for Nigerians owing to its appreciating value. But with great value also comes great vulnerability, especially with adherence to construction best practices, which could lead to avoidable disaster. On the 19th of October, 1 person was confirmed dead, 3 persons trapped and 2 rescued from a collapsed 2-story building at number 97 Lagos Road, Haruna bus stop in the Ikoyi area of Lagos State.
I see people crying. Everything happened. They say the building is collapsed. I say, wow. Okay, what happened? Okay, we just go there and see people there, and then people were trying to remove some. So we rescue two persons, 1 woman, 1 lady, and 1 man, like that. So from here to this place for the man, don't condemn already, and then that lady broke on her left hand and 1 side of the head. So this morning we started again to rescue some people. So now only 1 person we see. The person is already dead.
The National Emergency Management Agency NEMA Southwest spokesperson who was present at the scene confirmed that the 2 persons were receiving medical attention.
We were informed that a 3-story building collapsed. Immediately we activated our response plan. All the key stakeholders that are important in managing emergency in Lagos State moved to the scene. With that combined effort, we are able to rescue 15 people alive. Also, we recovered 1 body from the collapsed building. With that, we combed the arena since yesterday till this morning. We did emergency structural tests for the buildings around the place, and we discovered that another 3-story building is imminent, has failed integrity test. The Honorable Commissioner of Physical Planning that is on the ground gave a directive that we should go ahead with a controlled demolitions of the third building to move it to ground zero to avoid any form of sudden collapse building.
High-rise buildings are a common sight in the Ikoyi area of Lagos Island as the financially buoyant flock the area to purchase or lease property. One of such high-rise buildings are the ones being built by Fourscore Homes, and this piece of real estate accommodates 3 blocks of multi-story buildings on Gerrard Road. At face value, everything looks perfect at the site, but on November the 1st, one of the 3 buildings which was being well marketed in the last 1 year collapsed in the early hours of the day. Several people were trapped under the rubble, causing confusion, chaos and anxiety amongst residents.
Yes, all of them there like this. Are you sure? Like, wait, we don't rescue one person and the person is dead. Yeah, well, we don't kill one person out. Everybody there, yes. They just employed new 30 people. They're inside like that. Exactly.
Shortly after, both first responders, the fire service and excavators were deployed to lift beams and pillars to allow for rescue of those trapped under the rubble.
Sunday, face me!
As the rescue operation progresses, some victims were rescued with varying degrees of injuries, while others were unfortunately not so lucky. One of the early callers at the site is the Lagos State Deputy Governor Bafemi Hamzat, who announced that although the contractor got approval from the state government for a 21-story building, the quality of materials was compromised.
Have even been discharged, about 2 or so, but we've also sadly taken out 10 dead bodies. It's like I said, as you can see, that's why the number of people here, a lot of them, I don't know what they are doing. This is a search and rescue operation. So sometimes we need to even be quiet so that we can hear voices. So that's why we are shouting, please keep quiet, keep quiet. That's why we don't want too many people here. And responsibility here. We are going by, the information is fluid. Remember, it's not a residential building yet. So it's not that we have tenants and we have list of people. So we're getting different information. Fortunately for us, we have 1 or 2 people that were able to come out and said, well, they think, they are not sure. They think, one of them said they think about 24 people they are there, another says about 28. So we don't know. Okay, so we are just going by what we have, but we have some names. So you can see that in there they were shouting some names and the lady was responding. They were calling her name. I'm not going to give the name. So they were calling the names because they know she was there. So we are not sure exactly. Like I said, it's a construction site. People come in. We understand also that some people came in just to inspect. Maybe they wanted to buy or something like that. So we don't know the number because people are just coming in. So we are not sure the number. But as we are able to see, we are getting people out, and hopefully we'll be able to get everybody out alive.
The Lagos State Commissioner of Police Akeem Odumosu and an expert in the industry also speak on the collapsed building and security response at the site.
But the fact is that we got information that the building collapsed a few hours ago, and we deployed all the rescue apparatus of Lagos State government. So we learned that it was 21-story building, and so far, 3 have been rescued alive, and 3 have lost their life so far. And until the operation ends, we cannot know the actual figure. But it should be rest assured that whoever that is trapped here, we are going to make sure that we rescue everybody trapped here. That's why the government has asked for more, apparatus from other agencies, so to come in now to assist. So to those who have lost, we cannot ascertain either Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. C. So which will not give opportunity now to locate the family. At the end of the day, The deputy governor is here physically on the ground. You see him now. The commissioner for fiscal planning is here. So all the rescue agencies are here from the federal, so from the states and other agencies that are assisting. So just to be patient. All what you know is that we don't want more casualty. That's why we are controlling the crowd, because the building there is going down and everybody around there, it can affect anybody. That's why we are just pushing crowd out so that they can give opportunity for the professionals to do their job faster, so that whoever that is trapped and still alive will rescue. You'll see the medical personnel, everybody's on the ground.
If we've done what we're supposed to do, either on the private or the government side, we won't be having this kind of incident. Like it's said by Falano, the renowned lawyer, about 6 or 7 weeks precisely, where we have all the allied professionals in the construction industry together. He said we should stop talking of building collapse. Go and search yourself. What is your regulatory body doing? Your regulatory body is supposed to regulate things like this, but we are fighting among ourselves. So ACON, who is my own regulatory body, my prayer to you is wake up and do the needful. Now, looking at this, you can determine what's actually the cause of the collapse. But in a nutshell, we're standing in front of the signage, the so-called signage, which is supposed to be a prerequisite at a site. You cannot see the name of the architect, it's not visible. You cannot see the name of a structural engineer and other consultant. But there's so much going on the platform where the number written on all these consultants happens to be so-called, until it's well proven, the developer. Now, what is happening? I'll tell you just a little history, because the government has a big fault to this. In 1986, the National Building Code was drafted by all the professional bodies in the construction industry, the 7 of them. This National Building Code was not signed until 20 years after it's drafted by the then Minister Mimiko. We're in 2021 today, 15 years after the National Building Code has not been passed by the National Assembly, because it tells you, it gives you the minimum requirement of the materials and the labor to be used. It gives the minimum requirement. And if we have that in place, I can say Lagos State government is trying, because they've reviewed their physical and urban development law in the last 10, 20 years. But we have to domesticate this National Building Code. The Nigerian Institute of Architects has taken it upon themselves, where there's been a lot of lectures, there's been a lot of awareness in domesticating this National Building Code. But how can you domesticate it when the National Assembly hasn't even passed the code?
By the second day, 5 more bodies were recovered from the site of the collapsed Gerrard terraces in Ikoyi, bringing the total number of fatalities to 15. Nigerians started asking questions, particularly relating to the defective structure.
What we're after now is rescue mission. After the rescue mission now, then the technical officer will now go into it. Maybe they need to take some samples to lab to know what happens. So maybe there's going to be, maybe they're standard or not, it's not for me. But the technical officers now, the site engineers now, the government engineers, they will now meet and find out what is the cause. But for now, what we're after is to rescue lives that are there.
Search and rescue operations entered day 3 at the site of the collapsed building.
We have recovered 38 bodies, and as you know, we have 9 survivors. And some bodies are ready for identification. So people can go to ID Asiaba as from 4 p.m. to identify the bodies of their loved ones. For bodies that may be very difficult to identify, we are going to be conducting a DNA test for them, for such bodies to be identified. And I would like to let you know that the operation continues.
On day 4, more bodies, including that of the owner of the building, Femi Osiboma, his friend Wale Bobosini, and some workers were recovered from the rubble of the collapsed site. Families of the victims sit around hoping to get positive news that their loved ones are still alive. The tension is palpable and emotions visible around the site as excavators comb the rubble and more bodies are recovered. An emergency information and medical center is set up. A register is open for families of victims or missing persons. The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu arrives at the scene of the incident to monitor the search and rescue operation. Governor Sanwo-Olu explains that there is no site manifest to identify those on site, and the state government is working in the dark.
They were working because some of them had indeed been working for the past 12 hours before then, right? And we had to create a clear chain control and command, which is why you have some of the canopies that are out here now, and to have a clear process where families, press, and general public could get answers to questions that they might have, and we all can indeed learn from this moving forward. So what are the things that also have happened in the last almost 48 hours? Of course, it's on record that we have asked the general manager of the Building Control Agency, Architect Ikoyi, to proceed of an indefinite suspension, and that I gave instruction to, and we will say that we had to take from the head, from the leadership of that agency, and you can rest assured that if there are other people that are found in the course of the investigation, everybody will also face the full route of the law. The other thing that we have, that we've also set up here, is we've set up, a very strong empathy-driven medical base. Unfortunately, what we've seen in the last 48 hours is that we do not have the manifest of everybody that was on site, which is what's called now, which is against the law. On a daily basis, you are meant to have a manifest of everybody that is working in a construction. So there is no manifest, right? And unfortunately, too, it's also been very difficult for us to identify or for anybody to come forward as maybe a project manager or a staff of the developer and the contractor. So we've also been working without having full information as into what is the modus operandi of the company. So that's why we do not know what numbers we're dealing with or what the mix are and what work they're doing there. So it's still completely in dark. We don't know. But what we do know as we speak now is that we've been able to rescue 9 individuals, right? 6 of them are still in the hospital, at the General Hospital in Lagos. So we have all their names, their telephone number, their pictures, we have everything, and 3 that have been discharged for minor injuries.
It further announced that the state has set up a panel of inquiry into the collapsed 21-story building on Gerrard Road with specific terms of reference.
So for us to get to the real issue of what had happened, I've set up a high-powered commission of inquiry. It's a strong professional investigative panel that are consisting of everybody from outside of government, and I'll roll out the names of the members. It's a 5-member with 1 secretary that's also external, and they've been given a clear terms of reference. Right, later today, I will be meeting with some of them, and we'll identify where they're going to work from, and we're going to give them a 30-day assignment for them to wrap up and tell us, indeed, professionally, what had gone wrong here, and who are the culprits, and what do we need to do. 21 confirmed mortality, meaning that people that have been taken out from this site that have been taken to the morgue, 21 of them. But what is the process? So we have a desk that has been set up here where we want family members. Like I said, we do not have a manifest. So anybody that is missing, that you think you must have assumed that maybe came here to work or is a worker here, you will take down the name of the person. If you have a photograph of the person, it will be very, very useful, right? We will also want your own name and contact, of who is presenting. We do not want more than 1 or 2 family members. We do not want 6, 7 members from the same person to confuse us and say that we are here for one person and 7 people are crowding us. Nominate who is with one person or 2 at max that they can give our detail. You know, we can have your numbers, your telephone number, and a picture if you have one, right? And so it's also been, you know, rumored, alleged that the developer is also the contractor, is also the builder. But I cannot confirm that. These are things that, you know, the panel will indeed investigate and confirm and tell us what exactly has gone. I cannot begin to be preemptive as to that.
With more rescue effort by the state government and other stakeholders at the collapse site by day 5, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu rules out the possibility of rescuing any more victims, saying that the possibility is extremely slim.
I've started, you know, taking out some of the rubbles. It's gotten to a stage where the equipments cannot even walk any further again because, I mean, the piles and piles of rubbles that have been pushed around, there's a whole lot. So overnight today now, you know, they're taking the rubbles that have been pushed away from the building, from the footprint of the building. So we've taken a lot of the rubbles from the hip of the building, we've taken them to spread the ground. So now we know that the grounds that we're working on that has been heaped, you know, are free grounds that have been taken from the major rubble. So those are the grounds that we're now taking out so that we can create a bit more space, you know, in the tight compound, right? And Friday, tomorrow morning again, go back to the pile that looks like the main structure itself, so that we'll still go line by line and see if there's any form of, well, it's difficult to continue to talk about rescue now, but whatever it is that we can find there, that could still be useful for, you know, for the eventual investigations. It will be a tough one. It will be really, really, really tough. And I mean, that's the thing. You know, it will be extremely, extremely tough to imagine that we probably could still have survivors, you know, at this time. I mean, and these are all fallout of the questions that I've asked, you know, all of the first responders, the experts, the medical personnel, you know, and that's the real fact of where we are right now.
Well, our thoughts and prayers are with the families that have been affected by this very sad incident. And that's it on this episode of Special Report. Thanks for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.